Welcome to the Touch MBA Admissions Podcast, where we discuss all things related to MBA admissions and how to get into your number one school. If you want to know more about this program, check out our website at touchmba.com. What's up, future MBA All-Stars? This is Darren, host of the No BS MBA Admissions Podcast, where we cut through the crap and discuss how you can find and get into the best MBA program for you. In this episode, we'll be discussing the book Made to Stick, which is about what makes ideas sticky. Okay, this book was written in 2007 by Chip and Dan Heath. Chip Heath is a professor at Stanford Business School, and Dan Heath, his brother, is a columnist for Fast Company. Now, some of you might be asking, why are we reviewing a marketing book on an MBA admissions podcast? And the reason is that your application to business school is very much a preview to the upcoming movie. It's a pitch for why you are going to be an awesome student and alumni for that MBA program, right? And so if you think of your application as a pitch, you'll realize that you're not there to just list out your details, let the admissions committee know you're this age, you have this many years of work experience, you've worked for this company, you scored this score on the GMAT. But no, what you're actually trying to do is to first get them to pay attention, right? That is the most important part of your pitch. And the second thing, of course, is for them to remember you. The third, to believe in you, to believe in your credibility. The fourth, to care, to actually care about your application. And fifth, of course, to act on it, and to act on it in a good way, which to all of us means yes, all right, accepted, right? So think of your application like a pitch, okay? Now, I would like you to close your eyes for the next couple minutes and think of your favorite movie previews, or the last movie preview that really stuck in your mind, okay? And my guess would be that that movie preview had these 6 following elements. 1, it was simple. You knew immediately from 30 seconds what this movie would be about, whether it's a horror movie, a rom-com, a romantic comedy, an action movie, science fiction, whatever. 2, that there was something unexpected about the preview. Maybe you saw an image you've never seen before. Maybe it was the actor playing a role that he or she has never played before. Whatever it is, it caught your attention and made you pay attention to those 30 seconds of the preview, right? 3rd, it was very concrete. Something from that preview, whether it was the song they used, whether it was an image, stuck in your head. Whether it's a picture of Gollum from Lord of the Rings going, "Master," or wait, not master, what does he say? He says, "My precious," right? Whatever it is, I mean, that's stuck in my head, but I'm kind of weird. But something was very concrete about that movie preview. The 4th thing is that it was credible. And this is why in movie previews, they have stuff like produced by Peter Jackson, former director of Lord of the Rings, or from Steven Spielberg, or from Christopher Nolan, right? Because directors add a certain credibility to the movie. They make you want to pay more attention to what you're about to see, okay? And of course, that could be a director, that could be a really great actor or actress. The 5th thing is that it was emotional, right? So whether it scared you, or it made you laugh, or just made you really curious or uncomfortable, it made you feel something about the movie. And finally, that it told a story. There was a sort of narrative arc to the preview. Because without the story, then it's just, what is this about? I have no idea. It's confusing. So these are the 6 elements that you can also use in your application to make a great, quote-unquote, movie preview for yourself. Just imagine that you're an MBA admissions officer, right? And it's fall, and there's hundreds, if not thousands of applications coming into your email box. And you have to get through all these applications, and you're trying to find the best candidates for your program, right? That's a really tough job. I know, because I used to sit in that seat. You're reading hundreds of applications in a week, right? So how how can you craft your application so that it sticks out, so that the person who's reading hundreds of applications will remember, will pay attention to your application? So what I'd like to do is talk through these 6 elements and give examples, MBA admissions examples of how you can use them when you apply. All right, so let me first spell out the formula. The formula is SUCCES. Okay, it's a cheesy acronym, but it's easy to remember, as all acronyms are. So what does the S stand for? Simple. U stands for unexpected. C stands for concrete. The second C stands for credible. E stands for emotional. And finally, S stands for story. So let's start with the first S, simple. You need to really think about your entire application, your strengths, your work history, what you're passionate about, what you want to do post-MBA, and break that down into one tweet. That's right, 140 characters about who you are, who you want to be, and how an MBA will get you there. It has to be that simple, because after we read all these applications, we can really only remember a couple sentences about you. So you need to boil your essence down into 2 sentences, max. So let me give some examples. Former TV star in Singapore who wants to work in the media and entertainment industry in Los Angeles. An aircraft financier who wants to assume higher levels of responsibility and get into other types of logistics financing. A Chinese civil engineer who works for a water management company but who wants to get into sustainable real estate. An Indian chemistry PhD who wants to get into intellectual protection for a multinational pharmaceutical company. Okay, so these are just a few examples of short and sweet, simple profiles boiled down. Now, of course, you'll need to really bring out each of those elements, but that's essentially what will stick in the admission officer's mind. Let's move on to the next one. Unexpected. Now, I think this is actually the most important element out of all of them in this book, especially for MBA applications, because the way the human mind works is it's a pattern matching and making machine. So when it confronts something that doesn't fit a pattern, it pays more attention to it. It wants to figure it out. It's more curious about this new phenomenon it observes. So what you need to do is figure out what are the typical stereotypes for people with your similar profile, and you need to break them. Right? You need to break those stereotypes. That's why those in finance are often trying to do nonprofit work to show that they have a heart for society. And that's why those with nonprofit backgrounds are trying to score high on the GMAT and trying to taking business courses at the local universities to prove that they have math and quantitative skills. So you need to be multi-dimensional, and most importantly, you need to break the existing patterns that exist. Now, the good news is there's really only one way to do this, and that's by being you, right? Because there's no other person like you on this planet. The challenging part is finding those unconventional and unexpected parts of you to share and mix in to your application, okay? But I think the core idea here is figure out what the common stereotype is of you, break that stereotype. You will definitely hold the admissions officer's attention much more if you do so. The third element, concrete. Use a lot of concrete details. Talk in pictures, talk in sounds, talk in senses. Create stories, write about things that will stick in the reader's minds, so they will remember you, right? So a vivid story, a vivid image, these are ways to do that. Fourth, credible. This is where details are really, really important. So details in your resume, details in your recommendations, details in your essay, right? So don't just say you led a team to accomplish this goal. Say you led X number of people to break the company's sales record of $10 million or whatever it is. This is why when you go to your recommender, you should give him examples of all the traits you want to emphasize in your application. Because he can't just say, John is a great leader. That statement has no credibility because there's no details, right? He needs to back up such an assertion with evidence. John was a great leader because he was able to turn around this team and increase the performance of, our business by X percent, or make X more sales, or bring down costs by X dollars, whatever it is, right? There has to be evidence to each assertion. In other words, and of course, things like your GPA, your GMAT score, and branded companies will make you more credible because they're more well-known. You're more of a sure thing if you have a 700 GMAT or a 4.0 GPA or worked for Johnson & Johnson. The fifth element, emotional. You have to get your reader to care about you. Okay, now this is a really hard thing for a lot of MBA applicants because you feel like you can only share your strengths in your application. You feel like you should only talk about your accomplishments. But why do business schools constantly ask about weaknesses, constantly ask about your toughest challenges in life? That's because they want to care about you. They want to know what you've struggled to overcome, and they want to know how you dealt with adversity. So some ways that you can add a more emotional element to your application is to really focus on the individuals in your stories. And by individuals, I mean you, yourself, and those you affect. So instead of saying, well, I worked for this company. I worked for company X. Explain why you worked for company X. Explain how this was such a big deal for you because you really wanted to get into this industry. This had been a dream of yours, and therefore you were really excited to get this opportunity for work for this company. You have to explain the whys and the hows to make it personal. The more empathy you can create for yourself, then the stronger your case will be. And so when you're talking about community impact, don't talk about real people. Talk about how you really affected, your colleagues, or you really affected members of the community you were working with at the time. And finally, one last way to make your stories more emotional is to appeal to identities. So everyone can relate to certain identities: as a son, as a father, as a boss, okay, as an employee, as a friend, as a teacher. All these common identities you can really play to because people have experiences with these identities. The last element is story. And the more narrative you can put into your essays and application, the stronger it will be. If you just make statements like, I am an awesome MBA candidate because I went to this school and I worked for this company and I have a lot of international experience. I am a great fit for this school because I'm interested in real estate and I want to work for a real estate developer after I graduate. I mean, there's nothing exciting about that. If anything, the reader will try to prove you wrong if you just make statements, right? If you just say, take me because of XYZ reason, then that will trigger the thought, really? Should I take this person for XYZ reason? In the reader's mind. However, if you tell a story, then they are along for the ride with you. They aren't going to be constantly analyzing your statements or assertions. They're just going to be listeners to your story. So you have to say all those same things, but in a narrative form, right? That's much more easy to listen to and to remember. So what are the common story types, right? Well, there's a few that you'll recognize in every movie and many movies. The first is the quest. So a hero, often accompanied by sidekicks, travels in search of treasure and fights against evil and overpowering odds and ends up getting the treasure, right? There's also the rags to riches story. So these stories feature modest or virtuous but downtrodden characters who achieve happy endings when their special talents or true beauty is revealed. There's also the overcoming the monster stories. So this is the common James Bond storyline where a hero must defeat a monster and restore order to a world. There's Voyage and Return. So that's like Alice in Wonderland, Robinson Crusoe, where protagonists are suddenly thrust into strange worlds and must make their way back to normal life. There's the Rebirth story, where the protagonist confronts a threatening shadow or a threatening force, but some sequence of events or decisions leads to redemption and rebirth and the restoration of a happier world. But my point is, these are basic story types that you can incorporate into your application, into your profile. These are instantly recognizable in the human brain. I mean, these stories have been told for ages and thousands of years. So if you can sort of fit your past and your trajectory into one of these story types, it could be really powerful and help your application be much more memorable. In summary, I think that these are 6 great elements you can add to your application. I highly encourage you to read the book Made to Stick. And remember,